Okay, so this is a kind of different style of tier video. I'm gonna rank the sun signs. This does specifically apply to sun signs. Most of my tier videos are general, just applying to the signs themselves. But this is specifically applying to the sun signs that are easiest to guess. So if you don't know somebody's sign and you try to guess it, this is how I would rank the easiest and the hardest ones to guess. This one is definitely going to be subjective. There are certain signs that I have found are much easier to guess than others. But I'm curious if, maybe you have had a similar experience as well. I don't know. But yeah, let's kind of get through it. And honestly, I'm not exactly sure how I'll rank all the signs. There are a few that come to mind that are particularly easy or difficult. But yeah, let's just kind of get into it here. And before we begin into the video here, definitely hit me up for a reading. You can leave a donation as well if you like. My information is always in the description. However, you can support the channel, even just watching my videos, liking, commenting, etc. That really supports me too, and it allows me to continue posting content like this. So thanks so much of those. Thanks so much to you who have contributed to the channel. My readings are still very affordable as well. They are really good value for your money. Anyway, but let's get into the video. So, talking about Aquarius. So, I really do think this is one of the easier signs to guess. I've heard the opposite. I've read somewhere years ago that Aquarius is difficult because they're always so unique. Each one will be different from each other. Yeah, that can be true, but I've noticed a couple different Aquarius types. Like specifically with men, they're either like really tall for some reason, or they're more kind of like stout and like thicker, if that makes sense. And I know that's a little bit vague, but if you know what I mean, it's easy to guess that way. Like there's a couple different types. And for some reason, I don't know exactly what it is, but Aquarius, I do think is one of the easier signs for me to guess. And it's hard explaining how I guess signs because to me, it's kind of just a vibe. It's just based on like intuition or patterns, things like that. I usually just guess on the vibe I get from someone, not it's not so much a logical like analytical process for me, if that makes sense. So it's difficult for me to say exactly why I find Aquarius to be one of the easier signs to guess. I don't know, I just feel like it is a very unique energy. It's different from all the other signs. So maybe that's what it is. Next is Aries. Aries is by far one of the easiest signs for me to guess. Sun is exalted in Aries. It's such a strong sign, very straightforward, to the point. And pretty much everything about Aries is direct, to the point, straightforward, simple, black and white. And those that do have Aries placements they're so in your face, they're so outgoing, generally speaking. Of course, there are certain Aries people that are introverted. That's a minority, though. Generally, these people, by their very nature, they stand out, so that's why they are one of the easiest signs to guess. Next is Cancer. I would say Cancer is also one of the easier signs, not the easiest necessarily, but this one is more subjective for me. I get along with Cancers more than maybe any other sign. They're definitely in my top two signs that it's easiest for me to meet them if they're a stranger and get along and build rapport. So I just have a lot of experience with people who have major Cancer placements. Cancer Sun in particular, I've met many of them. So I think that's why it's just a familiar energy. I know many people have said that Cancer is not straightforward, not sincere. People can be confused by Cancer. I've found Cancer to at least come across very sincere. I think they have this kind of like humility and this openness about them. And so I tend to hit it off really well. I've also noticed, and this is also very subjective, but I would say of all the signs, Cancer tends to like me more than any other sign, or maybe I'm just more aware of them liking me. And I know that's kind of a narcissistic thing to say, but usually if someone likes me like right off the bat, they probably have some major Cancer placements, maybe Cancer Sun. So that's how I know. Next is Capricorn. This is another sign I'm very familiar with in a different way. Most of my family members have sun or moon or rising or multiple of those in Capricorn. And I've also met many people with sun in Capricorn. So it is a very familiar energy to me. Actually, now that I think about it, there are multiple people with Sun in Capricorn that I guessed that they were Capricorn before they said that they were. So yeah, I guess I would say this would be easier too. They're not all gonna be easy. I'm actually not good at guessing sun signs, so don't think that I'm gonna put all of them in these top two tiers because I'm not going to. But Capricorn, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I guess like Aquarius, they're just very independent, and this one is more of a vibe for me too. You know, sometimes do you ever get that feeling where, you know, it's like this person just reminds you of someone in particular? That's what I get. Like I have so many like Capricorn Sun people I've known. It's almost like a recognition thing. It's like a categorizing. You know, I meet someone new and I go, "Oh, you remind me of like multiple Capricorns." I would guess they're Capricorn Sun, you know. So exactly why that happens, it's hard for me to analyze. Next is Gemini. So I think Gemini would be harder for me to guess. I feel like they tend to be a little bit more. They tend to be awkward, especially with me particularly. But I think Gemini might be difficult because there's such a range to them. I've noticed specifically with older female Gemini Sun people, they can be very like soft and like very pleasant, which like those traits aren't necessarily usually associated with Gemini. You know, I think younger Geminis can be they're more extreme. They can either be really shy or really outgoing. So I think just because of the range there and all the different variations that Gemini is capable of, I think that's going to make them more difficult. I don't know how I would really approach that. So yeah, and they might even be the hardest. I'm not sure. Next is Leo. So this is it's Leo and Aries that are so easy to guess. They, you know, if you ever encounter someone that's just very straightforward, you know, they are very strong-willed. They've got a strong personality. They're not, you know, they're very confident when it comes to introducing themselves and, you know, being very visible and being, I don't know, taking the lead. You know, it's just a very kind of in your face energy, very direct, and they are very energetic as well, so passionate. It's just easy. It's a very visible kind of energy. And sun, you know, the sun is probably the most visible body in the sky, right? It completely dominates the whole sky. Sun is in domicile in Leo and exalted in Aries. So I feel like it only makes sense that, you know, these are the two sun signs in particular that are the best at receiving attention, and you know they're leaders, etc. So I think it's easy to spot them. Let's just go with that. Next is Libra. I think this is going to be more tricky as well. Libra has somewhat of a range, not quite as much as Gemini. And Libra, I've hit it off with a lot of Libras as well over the last several years really. But still, it's not nearly as dominant of an energy as Aries or Leo. And so I think with these more kind of complex, more inwardly focused energies, I think that can be a little bit more complicated to guess someone's sun sign. And what's weird is I sometimes confuse Libra with Cancer. Like I may feel like someone is a Cancer when they're actually a Libra, or vice versa. I think those signs are surprisingly similar. So now that I think about it, I'm going to bump Cancer down. I don't think they're actually super easy to guess. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Okay, next is Pisces. So this one's funny because just recently I had two different jobs where both my bosses were female Pisces. And but I think for both of them though, it can be very different. Like, and I guess this is true for any sign, but let's say someone has Sun in Pisces, but I've known a few in particular that were like very outgoing or that didn't seem very emotional. Well, it's probably because they have major placements in Aquarius or Aries. So I think that can skew things a little bit. But Pisces is also another one of those signs that's more convoluted, more complicated, I guess, more complex. So I think that makes them harder to guess. And Pisces, because they're mutable, they have a wide range as well. They can be very introverted, shy, and timid. They can be very outgoing and very open as well. They can be very warm. But again, if you mix in some Aquarius or Aries placements, they can be like not as warm, more like, you know, cut and dry. So I would say this is one of the harder signs. Yeah, I don't know what exactly, and let me know if you have any hints or tips for any of these, but I don't know exactly what it would be about a Pisces sun that would tick me off or tip me off, whatever whatever the saying is. There's nothing like really particular that would tell me that this is a Pisces sun I'm dealing with, if that makes sense. And maybe part of that is just because they always say, all the signs are kind of combined into Pisces in a way. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't guess signs a whole lot, but I'm not sure which would be hardest of the. I think Pisces might be even harder than these other ones. Yeah, I can't remember correctly guessing any Pisces sun people. So, excuse me. Next is Sagittarius. So, I think this is one of the easier signs to guess. For me personally, I've known like Cancer and Sagittarius are probably the signs I've known more than any other sign, specifically with sun signs. Sagittarius is also a fire sign, so they can be a little bit more bold and kind of in your face, a little bit like Aries or Leo. But they're also mutable, so again, they have that range. I've actually met a lot of very shy Sun and Sagittarius people. I think any of these signs that are very intellectual and think a lot can be very shy, like any of the air signs, Sagittarius or Virgo. I guess a lot of signs can be shy when you really think about it, but so yeah, there's just such a wide range. I know that many people say that Sagittarius is so bold and so direct. They're so honest, but when you mix in some Scorpio or Capricorn placements, a lot of people with Sagittarius Sun can actually be very private because of those like neighboring Capricorn or Scorpio placements, if they've got Mercury, Venus, Moon, etc. In those signs. So I would say, one last thing about this too, where I get tripped up. I can't talk today, but what's confusing for me is that I often confuse Gemini with Sagittarius. Like they come across very similar to me. They come across a little bit awkward, but also humorous, and they're intellectual, analytical. They don't take anything too seriously. Like they have the same general vibe, so that is tricky. I feel like they come across so similar. So I'm gonna say average for Sagittarius. They are not too easy, but not too difficult. Next is Scorpio. Scorpio I'll actually put in the easy category. The way I can tell is that Scorpio is so suspicious. Like I've had multiple different Scorpio coworkers. This is almost the same exact situation, but it happened to me with two different people at two different times in two different jobs. But like, sometimes your workplace, like someone will bring brownies or cookies or something. Usually it's carbs and sugar. But, I went to go get a cookie or whatever it was. And this Scorpio person said like, oh, you're really going to eat that? How do you know it's not poisoned? And, it's little kind of phrasing like that, little expressions like that kind of tell me like, I don't know. Scorpio, from my perspective, they can often be like serious and dark, and they're definitely not very trusting. So usually if someone is like, really not just critical, but like, I don't know, there's something about that, like almost like paranoia, thinking like something's poisoned or something like that. Like that's just the first example I thought of, but that's what kind of tips off Scorpio suns for me. So I have guessed some Scorpio suns before. Oh, the tricky part here though for me is that I confuse Scorpios with Leos, which sounds kind of weird, but Scorpio can come across so like fiery, warm, bubbly. Like they can be very confident and really put themselves out there. They can really come across very similar to Leo, in my opinion. So that is the main difficulty I've had with Scorpio, mistyping them as Leo, saying, oh, are you a Leo? And they're actually a Scorpio. Okay, next is Taurus. This should be easy, right? Because what you see is what you get. They're very straightforward, black and white. This is one of the more simple signs. But, the honest truth, I don't meet a whole lot of Tauruses. And even the Tauruses I have met, there wasn't a sign that stuck out to me that I thought that they were. Like it didn't occur to me to guess their sign. And I think this is another one of those signs where, like, what is it about Taurus that is so distinct, that is so noticeable, that really tells you that they are Taurus? I don't really know of anything. Like Taurus's main characteristics are that they are consistent and stubborn, but also kind of easygoing. They're very practical. None of that I don't think is like super noticeable in a way that you know it's that sign and not any others. Like, yeah, if they're consistent, well, they could be Capricorn, they could be Virgo, or like maybe Aquarius. If they're practical, there are other signs that are also practical. You know what I mean? So I don't. They're not very distinct. They're kind of just middle of the road. Um, it's not a wild sign like Aquarius or Aries or Scorpio. You know what I mean? So I would say these would actually be hard for me. Even though it's a semi-simple sign, it's actually difficult. Maybe just because they're not very provocative. A lot of these these signs that I ranked as hard are, I think, kind of conforming. They don't want to rock the boat. They're more just like, they want to kind of go with the flow. So that would make them more difficult to guess, I think. And then lastly is Virgo. Virgo. I have a lot of experience with Virgo. I am a Virgo. I was raised by a Virgo. I've worked with Virgos. I've been friends with Virgos. I don't think I've had a romantic situation with, well, yeah, kind of, with one Virgo. But anyway, so I've known a lot of Virgos. There's that familiarity there. What tells me that a person is Virgo is that they actually, now that I think about it, I've guessed correctly multiple Virgos. What tells me that they're Virgo is that they are very analytical, but also they have the same, like, meeting them is the same. They always, at least for me, they start out as coming across a little bit cold, or they come across a little bit intimidating to me because they are not super outgoing. They don't share a whole lot in the beginning. And they may come across a little bit dry, cold, unapproachable. But what I find is that as soon as you kind of put yourself out there a little bit with them, they soften up really quick, and they're very easy to talk to, for me personally. And once you do get them talking and they're comfortable with you, they will talk forever. They'll talk for hours and hours. So Virgo, is a very introverted sign, but they're also very chatty. So I guess just that whole kind of a journey, or that whole process, is what tells me that they're Virgo. I don't experience that whole kind of, that whole experience in general, to me, is specific to Virgo, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what signs are easiest or hardest for you to guess. Let me know, I don't know, maybe things that I'm missing with certain signs that might make them easier to guess. I don't know. Honestly, I haven't really thought about this in a while, but yeah, that's how I would rank the signs in that way. So, as always, again, let me know if you want a reading, or if you have any questions about astrology for me. Hit me up with those. And otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.